Hello and welcome to 10 at 10. My name is Michael Ramage. I'm the director of the Cyber Education Research Center here at Murray State University, and welcome back to 10 at 10. 10 at 10 is brought to you through a partnership between Murray State University, Sprocket, West Kentucky, and KY Innovation. We are episode 239, and as I mentioned last week during the news, I wanted to dive a little bit deeper. I'm not going to go real deep, but a little bit deeper into the latest study from IBM. So just let me pull that up and we'll start talking about this a little bit. This is the Cost of a Data Breach Report 2025, and there's a lot of AI that's going to be in this. So we're going to dig into it and see what we can learn from it, because there's some interesting tidbits and interesting trends that I think are important for us to note. The first one we talked about last week, the average cost of a data breach globally went down by 9%, from $4.88 to $4.44 million. And I think all of these numbers are in dollars. However, we went up in the United States. We went up from 9.36 million to 10.22 million. So we went up by as much as people went down. What does that mean? That means, in my opinion, that bad guys are targeting organizations that have money. I think that's certainly a thing. There may be some beliefs or philosophical beliefs that the bad guys don't align with. And that might be that there are some software packages that are primarily used by the United States that impacted became a vulnerability for a lot of different organizations in the United States, more so disproportionately than other countries. I don't know exactly. Those are my speculations. One other thing that is worth noting, and this isn't standard across the board, but this was the average. According to the report, organizations were able to identify and contain a breach within a mean time of 241 days, average of 241 days, the lowest it's been in 9 years. That means from compromise to detection to containment, it is the lowest that it's been in 9 years at 241 days. Now, that's great. It's the lowest it's been in 9 years. Don't overlook the fact 241 days. 241 days. That's 2/3 of a year, more than 2/3 of a year. It's taken us over 8 months to realize that we're compromised and to be able to stop it. Just think about that. You may have somebody that compromises your network today, but you won't be able to do anything about it for 8 more months. That is significant, and that's a major problem. All right, so a couple of tidbits on AI. I thought there were some things that were worth noting on AI. First of all, 63% of the organizations that were surveyed identified that they either don't have an AI governance policy at all, or that they're still developing one. That certainly is concerning. I've talked to organizations that are in that process of developing. Here's the reality. Actually, that was the first one I talked about. If you come down here to this one, 20% of the organization said that they suffered a data breach, or they suffered a breach due to security incidents involving shadow AI. So shadow AI is shadow IT. It's typically a term that you hear referring to people using IT outside of what is in the policy or procedures. Well, if you have no AI policy, then clearly that's gonna occur. And even because of the shadow AI, it's adding an additional $670,000 in cost to a breach, containment, and recovery because because of the use of shadow AI. I say all that to say it is really important in today's world that you have a policy regarding AI and that you get that implemented. All right. Down here, I'm bouncing around a little bit. $1.9 million cost savings from extensive use of AI. Security teams using AI and automation extensively shortened their breach time by 80 days and lowered their average breach cost by up to $1.9 million compared to those that didn't. So we talked about that savings and how much quicker that the containment timeline is. Big part of that's because of AI. The bad guys are using AI. That's not even a discussion anymore. The bad guys are using AI. Are you using AI for the good? If you're not, to help shore up your security, then you're missing an opportunity. If you're not, to make your business better and more effective, then you're missing an opportunity. So make sure that you do that. And then finally, 1 in 6 breaches involved some type of AI-driven attack. AI can help to perfect and scale phishing campaigns and other social engineering. There's been stories this week about some researchers that have been able to replicate some attacks completely by AI with no with no human intervention. So it's happening. 1 in 6 breaches, that's a big number, but it is certainly happening. All right. And then so this is looking at along the bottom is the percentage of attacks of all breaches of this type. And then along the side is the cost of recovery. These are global numbers, not US numbers. So keep that in mind. And I don't really even care as much about the numbers. What I want you to look at is malicious insider. Well, it only happened just over 9% of the time. That is the most expensive type of breach because a malicious insider is somebody that you trust, right? It's somebody that you trust. Third-party vendor supply chain compromise, 4.91 million. It happens more often, almost 15% of the time. It's just under the malicious insider. Again, it's somebody that you trust. It is that trust component is where a lot of damage can happen. If you keep trying to hack into my company, I don't know you. I'm going to block you. But if you're able to masquerade as somebody that I trust, then you're going to be able to do a lot more damage, and that becomes problematic. Phishing over here, 4.8 million. That's the most common attack vector that was used that we saw with almost 16% of the breaches being phishing. So what happens is that by you clicking a link in an email, by you falling for that phishing attack, a trusted insider becomes that compromise. So that's and actually sometimes it will even lead over here to the next most expensive one to recover from, which is compromised credentials, 4.67 million. So all 4 of these top 4 have to do with some level of trust that the bad guy is able to somehow gain the trust of the organization, from malicious insider to compromise of a third party to convincing somebody to click an email or even stealing the credentials of that person. Those are important things to note because really and truly, that's a lot of damage that can be done there. All right. And then just a few other tidbits that I came across. Supply chain attacks took the longest to resolve and detect at 267. I told you 241. Well, this is another 36 days. IBM noted that 63% of respondents refuse to pay a ransom, which is an increase, which that's good, but ransomware incidents are still the most costly attacks. What that means is that whether or not that you pay doesn't necessarily matter on the overall cost. It's still expensive. And then the last piece that I think is very important as well that's worth noting is that IBM noted that there are more organizations deciding against involving law enforcement when dealing with a ransomware attack. I don't like that. I think that you should. I understand why some organizations might do it, but the data shows that law enforcement involvement lowers that average cost of a data breach. So anyway, the link to this is in the notes, so certainly take a look at it and you can review it. And if you find any other interesting tidbits, please feel free to share them back with me. Thank you for your time. I hope you found this report interesting and it gave you some ideas of things that you need to be doing for your organization to keep your organization and your people safe. Thank you very much, and I'll see you next week back here on 10 at 10. Thank you. Bye.